The year was 1974. A new entity was carved into the map of the West Midlands. Born from a remarkable administrative union, this was not a slow evolution, but a sudden, decisive merger between two great county boroughs that had, for the most part, undergone their own transformations. These were Worley and West Bromwich. Within these borders lay six distinct towns: Albury, Rowley Regis, Smethwick, Tipton, Wednesbury and West Bromwich, which were brought together. It was a bold attempt to unify a landscape that had, for centuries, been a patchwork of independent industrial heartlands. To understand Sandwell, one must look back to 1966, when the foundations were truly laid. The county borough of Worley had been formed by merging the historic boroughs of Albury, Smethwick and Rowley Regis, towns that had deep, ancient roots in the counties of Staffordshire and Worcestershire. Simultaneously, the county borough of West Bromwich had expanded its reach, absorbing the neighbours of Tipton and Wednesbury, firmly anchored in the historic county of Staffordshire. When these two giants merged in 1974, they were brought together by both a historic boundary and a unified southern and northern reach of the Black Country, which brought Worcestershire and Staffordshire into one in this wider metropolitan borough. The layout of this borough is truly extraordinary. Unlike most urban centres, Sandwell does not possess a single dominant heart. Instead, it is polycentric, a collection of individual towns, each reaching for and retaining its own fierce identity and funding, and having its historic high streets. From the administrative side, Albury is where the council are. However, the commercial pulse is mostly in West Bromwich, its largest town, although there are also centres in its other towns such as Wednesbury, Cradley Heath, Blackheath, Rowley Regis, Tipton, Smethwick. It is a landscape shaped by the seams of coal and iron that lay beneath, dictating where the people lived and where the great works were built during the Industrial Revolution. Sandwell occupies a vital central position in the Great West Midlands conurbation. It sits as the essential bridge and node, bordered by the city of Birmingham to the east and the city of Wolverhampton to the northwest, with its neighbours of the metropolitan boroughs of Dudley and Walsall framing its edges from north to south respectively. It is a crucial corridor where the motorways and ancient canals converge. Here, in this industrial middle ground, landmarks can be found dotted around such as Sandwell Valley, the Galton Bridge, West Bromwich Football Ground and the nearby Black Country Living Museum, which stand as testaments to human ingenuity, linking the historic manufacturing towns to the modern metropolitan world beyond in the form of the West Midlands County. So today in this video we will be taking a look at the active railway stations dotted around the metropolitan borough. Then in the second video, the disused stations. The third one will be the tram stops of the West Midlands Metro, including the future one from Wednesbury to Dudley. And then a bonus one will be the goods stations dotted around. So we'll dive into this video. Opening in 1863 by the Great Western Railway and originally a part of the Stourbridge Railway, Cradley Heath Station serves the market town of Cradley Heath in Sandwell, historically in Staffordshire. It is located near the town centre, serving Cradley Heath and Old Hill, and is also a part of the Cradley Hill interchange with bus services to Merry Hill, Dudley, Walsall, Birmingham, Wolverhampton, among other destinations. The world centre for chain and anchor making, the town and the station were close to the Cradley Heath colliery and numerous small backyard smithies which helped to build and manufacture anchors for ships and serve the wider world. Nearby, the Dudley No. 2 Canal, which was used to transport heavy chain cable before the railway took over the volume, also lies nearby. The station was essential for moving the heavy maritime chains forged in the local Blackhouse workshops, with freight and passengers being transported between Birmingham, Worcester, Kidderminster and among other destinations. Today, the station is served by West Midlands trains and some Chiltern Railway services on the Birmingham to Worcester line, with stops at Smethwick, at Stourbridge, Kidderminster and Droitwich Spa.
Be aware that fast trains come through this station regularly.
So this is Cradley Heath Station. We shall now move on.
Please ensure you remain behind the yellow line so that you are not near the platform edge. Staff may approach you if you are not in a position of safety. Thank you.
Dudley Port, or historically known as Dudley Port High Level, serves the Dudley Port and Great Bridge areas of Tipton in Sandwell. Historically in Staffordshire, the station here was opened by the London and North Western Railway on the Stour Valley line, which runs between Wolverhampton and Birmingham, and also forms today a part of the modern Stafford, Birmingham and Rugby loop of the West Coast Main Line. Served the Horsley Ironworks and various brick making mile pits. Numerous small coal shafts operated in the immediate vicinity of the station, as well as the nearby canals. It was also positioned close to the Birmingham Central Navigation Main Line, which passes underneath the railway, close to the Neverton Tunnel entrance. A historical note for the station is that it was once split between two levels: high level on the Stour Valley line and low level on the South Staffordshire line between Walsall and Dudley, currently undergoing a conversion to the Wednesbury to Dudley and then onto Brierley Hill Metro extension. There are plans to reopen that station to serve as an interchange between the tram and the railway here in Dudley Port. So this was Dudley Port Station. We'll now head on to the next one. Langley Green Station. Opened in 1854 by the Great Western Railway, replacing an earlier station nearby named Langley. It serves the Langley Green area of Albury, historically in Worcestershire, now part of Sandwell in the West Midlands county. It's situated close to the border between Smethwick and Albury. Famous for serving the nearby Albright and Wilson Chemical Works and the London Works, which was an iron works, it is also close to the Titford Canal and the Titford Locks, locally nicknamed the Crow. The station also served as a junction for the Albury branch line, which was a short spur into Albury town centre. However, it lost its passenger services in the 1920s and never reopened, being primarily used for freight up until the 1960s and as late as the 1980s-90s for the nearby aforementioned Albright and Wilson Chemical Factory. Today, it is served by West Midlands trains and is on the Birmingham to Worcester line via Kidderminster and Stourbridge. And it also serves as the nearest station to Albury town centre for connections to Birmingham and Worcester, as well as the neighbouring station of Sandwell and Dudley for services between Wolverhampton and Birmingham. So this was Langley Green Station, which I'll now move on to the next one. Old Hill Railway Station first opened its doors on the 1st of January 1866, quickly becoming a vital cog in the industrial machine of the Black Country. Built during an era when the local area was thick with the smoke of nail-making workshops and coal mines, the station provided a much-needed link for both workers and raw materials. It retains a somewhat traditional atmosphere compared to its more modernised neighbours, acting as a quiet but essential hillside gateway for the residents of Cradley Heath, Old Hill, Halesowen, and parts of the southern parts of Sandwell and the southern parts of the Metropolitan Borough of Dudley. The station's history is defined by its role as a busy junction. For decades, it was a starting point for the famous Bumble Hole Line, a winding branch that meandered through the Netherton Tunnel towards Dudley. This route was famously atmospheric, passing through the heart of the region's heavy industry before it was eventually closed to passengers in 1964. The station also served as a connection point for the Halesowen Railway, making it a bustling hive of activity for both freight and local commuter traffic during the peak of the steam era. The Halesowen Railway connected the village to Birmingham, the suburb of Longbridge, via the town of Halesowen and the villages of Huntington and Rubery. The station was originally opened by the Stourbridge Railway but was operated by the Great Western Railway, GWR. The GWR's influence is still visible in the general layout and the robust Victorian engineering required to carve the railway into the steep local terrain. Following nationalisation of the railways in 1948, it passed into the hands of British Railway before making its eventual node in the modern West Midlands rail network. Today, Old Hill is a key stop on what is known as the Snow Hill lines. It is managed by West Midlands Railway, which provides frequent services heading towards Birmingham, Snow Hill, and some services which carry onwards towards Stratford-upon-Avon and Dorridge, and the other way towards Stourbridge Junction, Kidderminster, and Worcester Shrub Hill or Worcester Foregate Street. The original timber buildings were lost to a fire in 1967 and eventually demolished, but the station does remain a popular choice for commuters looking to avoid the roads, which are usually congested in the area towards Wolverhampton, Birmingham and Worcester. So this was Old Hill Station. We'll now head on to the next one. Rowley Regis and Blackheath Railway Station, now simply known as Rowley Regis Station, serves the towns of Rowley Regis and Blackheath in the Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell, and also the town of Halesowen in the Metropolitan Borough of Dudley. Perched on the edge of the Rowley Hills, this station opened on the 1st of April 1867 to serve what was then a primary centre for quarrying and heavy manufacturing. Because of its elevated position, the station has always felt slightly removed from the valley floor, offering passengers a unique vantage point over the surrounding industrial landscape. It was established at the time when the famous Rowley Rag Stone was being transported across the country, and the railway was the primary means of moving that immense weight. Unlike its neighbour at Old Hill, Rowley Regis did not host major branch lines. Its history is instead tied to the immense and intense local industry that sat right on its doorstep. The station was famously surrounded by the massive sidings serving the nearby AEI works and local quarries, with its own eternal locomotives shunting wagons directly onto the main line. As for mentioned, it was known as Rowley Regis and Blackheath for over a century, reflecting its role as a primary station for the two neighbouring towns. The station was a Great Western Railway project, designed to compete with the London North Western Railway's dominance in the region. The GWR's branding and operational style dictated the station's early life, ensuring it was built to a high standard to handle the punishing loads of local stone trade. It eventually transitioned from the various iterations of British Rail before the modern park and ride era saw it heavily modernised into a functional hub seen today. In the present day, Rowley Regis has transformed into one of the most successful park and ride hubs in Sandwell. It sits on the Snow Hill lines, with Midlands Railway operating a high frequency service that makes it a favourite for commuters heading into Birmingham city centre. With a large multi-layout car park and refurbished platforms, it acts as a primary transport artery for the residents of Rowley Regis, Halesowen and Blackheath. Sandwell and Dudley Station. Well, where to begin? Although it looks like a modern interchange and transport hub, this station has roots stretching back to 1852. It was originally known as Oldbury Station and was later renamed Oldbury and Bromford Lane Station to rename it and avoid confusion with the Great Western Railway's original station on the Oldbury branch line. It was renamed as Oldbury and Bromford due to it serving the dense cluster of chemical works and iron foundries that dominated the Oldbury skyline. It wasn't until 1984 that it was rebranded as Sandwell and Dudley, a move intended to signify its new status as the borough's primary intercity gateway, rather than just a local stop for residents and factory workers. The station's biggest claim to fame is its location on the Stour Valley Line, a section of the West Coast Main Line that bypassed the original, more circuitous routes. Over the years, it has seen everything from the highest speed express trains to heavy freight drags. Unlike many of its neighbours, it didn't rely on short-lived branch lines. Instead, its history is tied into the constant evolution of the main line, including the massive electrification projects of the 1960s that brought the modern era to the Black Country. The station was opened by the London and North Western Railway, LNWR, the GWR's fierce rival. The LNWR intended for its route to be the premier link between Birmingham and Wolverhampton, and they built it with the scale and speed to match those ambitions. For over a century, it was a quintessential LNWR site, eventually falling under the London, Midland and Scottish Railway, LMS, during the groupings of 1923. Today, Sandwell and Dudley is the only station in the borough where you can catch a high-speed train directly to London Euston. It is served by Avanti West Coast, Transport for Wales and West Midlands Railway. This mix of operators provides a staggering level of connectivity, linking locals not just to Birmingham and Wolverhampton, but to the North West, North Wales and the capital, making it the busiest and most strategically important station in Sandwell. And on that note, despite its name Sandwell and Dudley, the station is actually nowhere near Dudley itself. Dudley is roughly 3 miles from the station, whereby the earlier aforementioned Dudley Port is under 2 miles from Dudley. So Dudley Port Station is better served for the town than Sandwell and Dudley. So that's just a bit of knowledge I thought I'd give you for that one. Smethwick Galton Bridge Station is a relatively newcomer, having opened only in 1995 as a bold solution to a long-standing transport problem in the area. It was built to provide a modern interchange that didn't previously exist, effectively replacing the nearby and ageing Smethwick West railway station. The engineering is genuinely impressive. It is a split-level station where 2 completely separate railway lines cross each other at right angles, linked by a central ticket office. The station takes its name from the nearby Galton Bridge, a masterpiece by Thomas Telford that spans the deep Galton Cutting. The construction of the station was the major event in the area's recent rail history, requiring complex works to build platforms on both the high-level and low-level tracks without disrupting the existing flow of trains. It effectively unified the 2 main rail corridors through Sandwell, turning a geographical obstacle into a strategic advantage. Unlike the Victorian station, this was a product of the British Rail era, specifically pushed forward by Centro, the West Midlands passenger transport executive. It was part of a wider project aiming at revitalising the rail links between Stourbridge, Birmingham and the Snow Hill Corridor. Because it was built so late, it lacks the soot-stained brickwork of its neighbours, opting instead for a functional glass and steel aesthetic. In the modern era, Galton Bridge is the ultimate shuffle point for the West Midland travellers. The high-level platforms serve the Snow Hill lines towards Worcester and Stratford upon Avon, while the low-level platforms handle the Stour Valley line towards Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton. Most services are operated by West Midlands Railway, though Transport for Wales trains also stop here, making it a vital pivot point for anyone navigating the region.
The storm is expected to spread to parts of
It was very windy that day when I was doing these coverages at Smethwick, so that's why the volumes had to go down twice now at these stations. Anyway, we now are at Smethwick Rolfe Street station, which serves the town of Smethwick, close to the borders with Birmingham. Smethwick Rolfe Street station, which is the central station to the town of Smethwick, opened in 1852 and is a classic example of an inner city industrial station. It was positioned specifically to serve the massive Soho foundry and the myriad of glassworks and engine shops that line the Birmingham Canal navigations. For the Victorian worker, this station was the primary gateway to the workshop of the world, and the sheer density of the surrounding brick architecture still gives the site a heavy historical feel. While it didn't host any branch lines like many other stations in the region, the station was at the heart of an incredibly complex network of private sidings and industrial spurs. Trains would frequently peel off the main line just yards from the platforms to enter the cavernous sheds of local manufacturers. One of the most significant periods of its history was during the World Wars, when the station saw an incredible volume of military freight and personnel passing through to the local munitions and engine factories. The station was opened by the London and North Western Railway, and it was built as a key stop on their Stour Valley line, designed to capture the lucrative commuter and freight market of the burgeoning Smethwick suburbs. The L&WR's presence here was an absolute until 1923, and the station's layout still reflects the functional, non-nonsense approach that the Premier Line was known for. Currently, Rolfe Street serves as a frequent local stop for the West Midlands Railway. It sits on the line between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton, providing a vital link for the local community and students. While it may not have the express prestige of nearby Sandwell and Dudley, its constant flow of local stopping services ensures it remains a busy and functional part of the Smethwick transport landscape and surrounding parts of Birmingham and Sandwell that rely on the town and the station for their commutes. Cambridge Parkway station is a product of the late 20th century Parkway movement, opening in 1990. Unlike the older stations that grew out of the Victorian slums or factory districts, Cambridge was built on a relatively unused piece of land which was open land near the borders of Sandwell and Walsall. Its purpose was entirely modern, to act as a massive interceptor for car commuters, allowing them to park their vehicles outside the city centre of Birmingham or Wolverhampton and finish their journey by railway. The station was built on the site of former industrial wasteland and railway sidings, representing the regeneration era of the Black Country. Its most significant event was the 2013 to 2014 upgrade, which saw the platforms extended to accommodate longer trains. This was part of a wide scheme to increase capacity on the busy corridor between Walsall and Birmingham, acknowledging that the station had far exceeded its original passenger growth estimates. The station was opened by British Rail in partnership with the local transport authority, Centro. It was one of the final major projects completed before the privatisation of the UK rail network. Because it was built with a specific purpose in mind, the design is highly functional, focusing on easy access from the nearby M6 and M5 motorways and providing space for large car parks that defines its usage. Another couple of things to note. The first one is it sits close to the site of the former Newton Road station, which was opened on the Grand Junction Railway and was a slight distance to the west of the station near the viaducts of the M5 crossing over Rahal Lane. And secondly, this is the nearest railway station for the town of Wednesbury, which hasn't had a railway since its closure of its stations and one being converted to a metro line. And it also serves West Brom itself, although West Brom has station connections at Sandwell and Dudley and the Hawthorns, and it also serves parts of Walsall, so it's got a multi-purpose for two different boroughs. Today, the station is a bustling commuter hub managed by West Midlands Railway. It is a primary stop on the line between Birmingham New Street and Walsall, aka the Chase line, with many services continuing onwards to the Birmingham International Airport for connections onwards to Coventry, London and to Rugeley Trent Valley with connections onwards to Stafford, Stoke-on-Trent, Manchester and other destinations. Its strategic location makes it one of the most used stations in the north of the borough, particularly for those looking to avoid the infamous traffic of the Tame Bridge intersection. So we're here at the Hawthorn station. This serves the town of Smethwick and the town of West Bromwich, as well as the aforementioned Hawthorns ground, which is home of West Bromwich Albion. As we can see, the two lines converge here. We've of course got the main line between Birmingham Snow Hill and Stourbridge Junction onto the likes of Kidderminster, Worcester, among other destinations there on the left. And then on the right we've got the tram line, aka the West Midlands Metro, between Birmingham Snow Hill and Wolverhampton rail station / George Street, and of course onto Edgbaston Village. As we can see with the two lines there, through that, beyond that bridge, see if we can get a better view. As we can see there where the curves are, that's the original site of the Hawthorn station, or Hawthorn's Halt as it was once known. So left is the line to Stourbridge Junction, and the line straight on is the old line to Birkenhead Woodside and Wolverhampton Low Level on the London Paddington to Birkenhead Woodside line. And of course that's the modern day Hawthorn station. So this was the Hawthorne station. We'll now head on to the next one. So we now come to our final station in the Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell. This here is Tipton, or sometimes referred to as Tipton Owen Street. This serves the industrial town of Tipton, close to the borders with Dudley and Wolverhampton, as well as West Bromwich and Wednesbury. Tipton Owen Street station opened in 1852 and sits at the very soul of the Black Country. The station is famous for its proximity to the former Owen Street level crossing, which for over a century had been a local landmark and a source of traffic frustration. This was removed, however, in the 2010s following upgrades and the diverting of the old roads under a bridge bypassing the station and railway line altogether. Tipton was, at one point, referred to as the capital of the Black Country, although this title has since been disputed by both Dudley and Wolverhampton due to their history and their larger resident population than the town of Tipton. The station was the primary entry point to the town that was, at the time, one of the most industrialised places on the planet. The station was part of a mind-bogglingly dense network of rail and canal intersections. While it did not have major passenger branch lines of its own, albeit there was a branch line to Wednesbury town via the Prince's End branch, although this had closed to passengers as early as the 1920s, 30s, and then to freight between the 60s and the 80s. The line through Tipton has been relatively active between Wolverhampton and Birmingham, hence its proximity on the Stour Valley line. The London North Western Railway were the original operators and builders of the station. They recognised Tipton's industrial importance early on, ensuring the station had substantial facilities to handle both the sheer volume of workers and the heavy goods traffic. The station eventually passed through to the LMS and then British Rail, maintaining its identity as a quintessential stoppage on the route to Wolverhampton and to Birmingham. In the present day, Tipton is a vital location on the Stour Valley line, served by West Midlands Railway, with regular train services between Wolverhampton and Birmingham New Street. Despite the decline of heavy chimneys that once surrounded it, the station remains incredibly busy, serving a loyal local population and acting as a gateway to the nearby Black Country Living Museum, as well as for residents of Dudley and residents of Coseley and Netherton, among other places like Wednesbury and West Bromwich. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, all the active railway stations of Sandwell. As you can see, there was quite a few in the south and the north of the borough, and there's a lot more older railway stations than there are active stations in the borough, which we will look at in a future video. I've still got a few more to cover yet, and I want to get them all completed before I upload them. But since there might be one omission from this, and that is Hampstead Station. Now, while Hampstead does straddle the border between Birmingham and Sandwell, the actual station is placed in Birmingham, so I've omitted that from this video because I want to go off where the station is actually located, not because it shares an area name like Dudley does with Sandwell and Dudley, and Halesowen's mentioned in Rowley Regis's station names, to avoid confusion for myself and the viewers. So thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, share and subscribe for more, and I shall see you all in the next video. Goodbye for now.